Let's go!
Yeah, I got people asking me about like the Sonic movie trailer and stuff and the Minecraft trailer, and it's like, I've never even played Minecraft, dude. Oh, I'm doing a Transformers 1 review 100%. I'm talking about that shit, dude. Transformers 1 is f***ing amazing, and it hurt me that after watching that movie that it's not doing financially well. Don't get me wrong, I think it's no shit the first Transformers animated movie since 1986. Is that wrong? I think it is. I think every other one has been like a Michael Bay thing in some way, right? It's like a Dungeons and Dragons situation. Yeah, that movie was amazing. I didn't see it. My wife saw it and she's like, this was really good. It just didn't look interesting from trailers, so I just didn't go see it. Glad I saw it. The movie was goddamn incredible. Couldn't believe it. How long is the movie? It didn't feel long. It didn't feel long. It might have been like an hour and 45. Maybe? Let's just dive right into that, right? I took Ripley and JJ to go see a movie. Went to go see Transformers 1, and I had zero interest in seeing this film. And that's just because I think I saw some early visuals, and I was like, oh, they're like young versions of Optimus and Megatron. That doesn't do much for me. Oh, they're like teenagers? Ooh, that really doesn't do much for me. Oh, and they're like buddy-buddy with each other? Ooh, that really doesn't seem like it does anything for me. I don't know. And the most of the trailer was respectively like Hasbro hammy, where it's like, oh, okay. So it's kind of, oh, this is really just a movie made for kids. I think I'm good. And then I started hearing reviews from people around my relative like age circle and like artists, right? People that clearly were influenced and grew up with Transformers, drawing Transformers, which is literally what I did as a kid. I've also seen Transformers 86 probably 1,000 times. I'm not even kidding you. There is no film on the planet that I've seen more than Transformers 86. Does my fandom go really beyond that? Like a ton? The old show to a certain degree, but you know, Beast Wars, all that kind of stuff, not really. But Transformers 86 was like a defining film for anybody that grew up in like the 80s or the 90s. So to me, it's like, yeah, that's like the pinnacle. Never gets any better. The Bay movies are fun to a certain degree, but I just stopped watching them after the second one. So that's where my Transformers fandom ends. But effectively, a Transformers child, right? Literally a Transformers child for most of my childhood. Going into this, I didn't have many expectations until people started saying good stuff. And I was like, oh, you know what? I think I'd be down to take my wife and daughter. Let's go check this out. I saw Transformers 86 again in theaters in 2016. It was great. It was fun. But it's a fast-paced, crazy movie meant to sell toys, but it's got a lot of nostalgia to it. And this movie was fucking incredible. It was so good. There were some spots about it that I didn't love. And funny enough, it's probably where the most of the budget went. Did not love Thor as Optimus. Didn't love it. I thought most of his delivery throughout the film was a little dry, and most of his lines were a little flat. Until a certain point in the film when characters go through obvious transformations, he gets a bit better. When the characters effectively get wiser. You know, he gets a lot better. They probably spent a lot of money on Chris Hemsworth, and, you know, good on him if they didn't. But effectively, you know, I think he didn't make an amazing, compelling character throughout some of the film. And I think that's almost where my criticism ends. Because, goddamn, dude, not Megatron and some other characters are great. I do think that there is a lot of humor moments throughout it that are, like, absolutely hammered away all over the place in the trailers. And they're spaced out pretty normally. And like, obviously it's a Transformers movie. It's going to be made for kids at some point. What I appreciate so much about this film, bro, in the exact same ways that you watch Transformers 86 now, and you're like, this was made for kids? Dude. And it's like, yes, this is the stuff that got us back in the day. Like brutal executions of like beloved like characters that kids loved, like brutal executions of them in front of your face, except they're lost type shit. And I was like, bro, wow. This movie doesn't do the exact same thing, but goddamn, dude, when it wants to be serious about shit, it's trying to prove a point about something, and it's like relevant in some way, even to what's happening nowadays, even to like people, where it's like, obviously these robots are polar people in some ways, right? Of like human suffering. Shit, dude. I was like, fuck. This is hitting pretty hard, and they're doing a really good job at it. I think that there is a certain criticism when it comes to a visual part of the movie. I think some of the character designs weren't powerful. I think some of the way that the visuals of the characters look, sort of keeping them in between 3D, 2D-ish, that I didn't absolutely love, but the camera work, the animation quality, like everything like that, on point, dude. There's a race sequence in this. It's so sick. It's so fucking good. Couldn't believe how good it was. There are parts of this film that take some pretty serious moments, and they don't fuck around with them. There's parts of the film where it's like, no, we're letting this sit for a bit, and you have to just watch this shit and hold it. Is it gonna be uninteresting for a moment to kids? Yeah, maybe, right? Maybe. But when a character, I'm trying to keep this as spoiler free, goes through a pretty critical transformation and like a realization of like their existence in some way, and their breakdown and their continual degradation, much less that happens throughout the film, it gets pretty fucking heavy. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot. You know, this is actually a lot. Ultimately, it gets to the point, I argue it as the best Transformers moment I've ever seen, of anything I've ever seen. Arguably one of the best ones. And maybe it isn't as big as Rodimus Prime or Hot Rod becoming Rodimus Prime in the old movie, or Optimus versus Megatron with the music and everything. And some of the moments in Transformers 86 are so incredible to me. Like, they define my life. The whole scene with Cup and the kid driving back to the city as they're getting invaded by the Decepticons and shit, and the music's kicking in, smacking the dude down out of the sky. I was like, Jesus, this is just defining my life, bro. Much less to the touch and all of that kind of stuff. Like, those moments are genuine defining moments in the history of Transformers. They're just so sick. Light our darkest hour type shit. This has one. 100%, dude. There's a moment in here, and it's not a spoiler. It's in all the trailers, because you know this is happening. Effectively, not Megatron is becoming Megatron, and not Optimus is becoming Optimus. And there's like a parallel filmmaking style that they go. The editing, the sound, the music, I'm like, motherfucker, this is so good. This is crazy. I couldn't believe how good it was. It was clear that the people that made this loved the shit out of this stuff. They loved it, to the point where it still had to have the marketability. It still had to have be a movie that's made for kids in some way. But in the same point where this movie just does not want to, like, this is not a joking moment. This is played for levity. And a lot of media nowadays, you're gonna have some character say some snappy thing where it's like a crazy moment of a character going through a transformation, and somebody wisecracks. Some character wisecracks because, oh, we don't want you feeling too much here because feeling things is dangerous. We don't want you feeling sad here. We don't want you leaving the theater feeling sad, so we're gonna have to crack some jokes every once in a while. It happens so fucking much. It's exhausting now. This movie doesn't do that. I'm so happy, because there's a lot of easy, cheap gags throughout the film, but they never do it in the moments that matter. I love it, dude. Another huge positive I have to give Transformers 1 is that there was so many opportunities throughout like the hour, 45-minute runtime to just be Transformers 86 again. There are so many opportunities in the story to just take the exact moments and beats identical shot for shot, because guess what? Those resonated so much and those were so sick at the time, so we'll just use them again. I hate to criticize Alien Romulus again, because that is what that movie did. We're just gonna take the things that worked so much back in the day and just repeat them now and see if they hit. Hey, it looks like they hit. Some people love it that aren't familiar with the old shit, but for me, it's like, oh my God, we're really just doing the same thing again? The exact same thing? This movie doesn't do that. It has nods and references and some lines that characters say, but it makes sense that it would build up to them being obviously in the Transformers 86 movie where their relationships eventually go. But dude, they had the restraint in this film not to just make it a remake of the old Transformers movie. They didn't. They stuck with their guns. They told an original story. They added way more backstory to characters than I was ready. And I was like, shit, this is very interesting. I'm not an entirely huge Transformers nerd when it comes to lore and shit like that. But them actually expanding, like, not just, oh, these guys were friends and then they become enemies at some point. No, there was a lot of, like, why these characters are this way. Why the Autobots even act the way they do. Why the Decepticons even become the way they are. That I was not expecting. And I was like, bro, this makes the old stuff way better. Mother of God, this makes even the old stuff I grew up with like way better. Either way, I really liked it. And I just gotta say, from the perspective of somebody that grew up with Transformers 86 as like a defining thing, Transformers being a defining thing to me, movie was amazing. And I think it was extremely disproportionate that the trailers led me in a different direction in my brain, where I just thought it was something completely different. I immediately invalidated this movie when I first saw the marketing for it. I didn't even realize that it's the first animated Transformers film since 1986. I didn't even put that together, and as I was watching it, and I'm like, this is so good. Wait, is this the first animated They didn't use any of that shit, dude. I was like, bro, what is happening? It's wild. So anyway, it's super good. I highly recommend if you've ever enjoyed old school Transformers in some way, or you grew up with that, or it's like you actually want to show your kids like a good movie, a relatively like good movie, and enjoy it, that has a good story and some pretty intense themes that are probably hard to visit but are necessary, I recommend it, dude. I legit recommend it. It was hella good. I'm looking forward to watching it again. I actually am.